All right, hello. My name is TJ Wilson, and this is my speech on alcoholics, on children of alcoholics and drug addicts. So, in order for me to be able to tell you about why I chose this as my paper that I wrote, and to be able to be my speech, I am the child of a alcoholic and a drug addict. My dad was a drug addict and an alcoholic. My mother was a drug addict and an alcoholic as well. Um, when I was a kid, they lost me and my brothers back then. It was called welfare, to welfare, and today it's called DHR. Me and my brothers we were taken from my parents, and we were moved to a place called Child Haven in Coleman, Alabama. Eventually, my grandparents came and got us, and we ended up staying with our grandparents from one extreme to the next. When you are the child of a drug addict or an alcoholic, anything can happen inside that home. There's a lot of things that, as a child, that you see that you shouldn't see, and there's a lot of things that happen to you as a child. For me, as a child, before being taken from my parents, I was molested by a family friend, and so for a long time I had to deal with that mentally, and it played a huge part on the trajectory of my life. And what I mean, because as a child of a drug addict and an alcoholic, I became a drug addict and alcoholic too. At 6, I started drinking. At 10, I smoked weed for the first time. At 14, I started putting cocaine into my marijuana. And by the time I was 17, I was a full-blown drug addict. I said that I would never do what my parents did with me. I used to wonder why my parents never came back to get me and my brothers, like why they never fought to come get us. Because I've seen countless times where dad would leave a household, or mom would be the root, and so it really done something to me to wonder why my mom never came back. She never ever showed back up. From my childhood, I didn't meet her again until I was 19 years old. That played a huge part on my confidence, my want of a mother's love, my want from a father my want from a father. Always having these sports events, and you go to these events, and all of your friends have their mom and dad at the games, and I'm a second team All-American, and my parents never came to a game, not one game. So it used to bother me a lot, and so by the time I was 21, I was going to prison for the first time, and so everything stemmed from my mom and my dad being drug addicts and alcoholics. And so I followed literally into their footsteps. But I made a conscious decision that one day, that was about after my second prison bid, due to my drug addiction and due to my alcoholism. I've been to jail countless times. And so I made a conscious decision the second time, after the second stint in prison, that I no longer was going to do what I did before. I was going to try to do something totally different. I was going to try to get clean, because I've never been clean. Like I said, I've been drinking alcohol since I was 6, so I had to grow up fast. I had to be grown fast, if that makes sense. As a kid, you gotta. I looked out for my brothers, because I didn't want what happened to me to happen to my brother. So I was the brother that was always in trouble, fighting, protecting, making sure nobody said anything to them, making sure nobody bothered them. And me personally, I didn't like any grown up male. So I just always was very resistant towards individuals like that. So I became the protector of the family. And so, with that being said, in active addiction, and on top of that, man, I landed myself in jail a couple of times, like 17 times. I've been in prison twice, and the last time, I think in 2009 is when I went. I got out in 2013. Um, that that was my second time. All the times I've ever been to jail, I've been to jail due to my drug addiction. Um, when I got out, I went to a place called Truth Recovery Ministries in Talladega, Alabama. And so I made it my business when I got to Truth Recovery, when I made parole on a 20-year sentence. Um, I was grateful to God. I went through a program called Therapeutic Community, and I wanted to reverse the curse. That's all I kept saying to myself while I was in prison. I'm going to reverse the curse. I'm going to reverse the curse. Like, I'm going to make sure that my children don't have to go through what I went through. And so I wanted to be able to get out and be a real dad. Not a dad that only came around on birthdays and called on birthdays and never brought a gift for Christmas. Because my dad, to this day, I'll be 45 years old in 2 days. And to this day, my dad has never, ever bought one item. He's never bought us shoes. And I know him. I see him all the time. He's never bought us shoes. He's never bought us underwear. He's never bought us clothes. He never gave us school money. He never did anything. He's just been that guy that has always been on the outside, and he would always be proud of us from the sport, from sports, but never, ever, ever would he be there to support us in anything financially or be there in person. So, but that doesn't mean I don't love my dad. And I'm going to tell you why I say that. Because I became a drug addict. Now, my brothers, they don't have anything to do with my dad, but me, my dad, and my mom. So my mom has passed away. She passed away from pretty much a drug overdose. Her heart exploded while smoking crack. And so I love them differently. I love them because as someone that has went through active addiction, I viewed them different. You know, my heart wasn't so hard towards them because I became an addict, and I did. I walked in their footsteps, and I done what I said I wasn't going to do, and I lost my children just like they lost us. In my addiction, um, my children's parents, not all of them, because I have three beautiful children, and one of my children's moms, they wanted to terminate my rights as the father because I wasn't there. And so I said I wanted to reverse the curse. So I got out this last time, and I went to a rehab I got clean in prison. So I went to a rehab in Talladega, Alabama, instead of going home. I got clean in prison, but I've never been clean on the street. And so I made it my business this time to not go back to the old place. They said you had to change people, places, and things. You had to get new friends, the whole nine. So I decided to not go back. And so I want to fast forward. Now I own the rehab that I paroled out of prison to. And I changed the name from Truth Recovery Ministry to Fresh Start Recovery Ministries. And I own 3 different drug rehabs, and I help people today get clean, get off drugs, and get their families back. So I chose this topic because it's one that is near and dear to me. And man, I can't, I can't put it all in there, man. Today, God has blessed me to be the head coach of the JV basketball team at Talladega College. I also have written a book called Pressure Makes Diamonds. I own a construction company. Man, life is really, really good today. You know, it is. It's good, and I got all of my children back. And my son wants to be president. I have a daughter that just gave me my first grandchild, who's married and doing very well. at 24, and I have another daughter that is in active addiction. And so, God he's been gracious, he's been good, and I'm absolutely grateful. Man, I'm grateful because I get to go all around the country, man, and being a motivational speaker, and I get to tell people my story, and I'm grateful for that. But most of all, I'm grateful for Jesus for saving me, like for real. Like if it wasn't for him, I don't know what I would do or where I would be. He definitely kept his promise. In prison, I asked him what did he want me to do, because when you're young, you're lost out here. You don't have a clue what your purpose is, and so I asked him what he wanted me to do, and he said just be obedient. And he told me just like this. He said if you be obedient, you'll run into your purpose. Because I never imagined being the drug addict, homeless on the streets of Birmingham for 2 years without a place to go. I never imagined that my life would be like it is today. So, with that being said, I'm 11 minutes and 15 seconds in. Man, I thank you for this class. I've enjoyed it. I'm a procrastinator. I'm doing this at the last minute, but I really appreciate I appreciate this class because it allows me to be able to open up and tell a little portion of my story. All right, you guys be blessed.